iconic scene along the eastern seaboard, the boardwalk along Atlantic City. Parts of it have washed away.
2 more casinos are folding over the next few weeks, leaving thousands out of work and a city in need of luck.
I think restorative narrative, as we understand it and as we talk to people, is really about people telling a story, their own story, on their terms.
So Stories of Atlantic City came to be starting in the middle of last year, so the middle of 2018. There was sort of a Twitter conversation going on between myself, Mike Rispoli from Free Press, and Eleanor Comley from Route 40. There are a lot of untold stories in Atlantic City, and that we were all curious and interested in them.
I got involved with the Stories of Atlantic City project because Free Press since 2015 has been working alongside community members in Atlantic City to help them build relationships with journalists and to advocate for better coverage of the city to make it more representative of them and more responsive to their needs. And so we decided that the restorative narrative framework, which was popularized by Images and Voices of Hope, would be an interesting vehicle to tell the stories of strength and resilience.
I know it's the media's job to tell all stories, but it just seems like all of the stories, or a majority of them, are always a story of something negative.
So the restorative narrative begins to open up a whole nother perspective in terms of thinking about how you report on communities.
We somehow, some way, put out this idea of doing an event in Atlantic City and having IBO come out to host it. And IBO agreed and came out and asked for us to bring media partners and community members to this event.
The first gathering was in September of 2018, and it was more like a cohort of sorts, and we learned about what restorative narrative is, how it might be beneficial for Atlantic City.
At the time of the September meeting, actually, that same day was the ribbon cutting of the Atlantic City campus. So it was like this, the energy was just so perfect to engage in having Stockton be part of that as well.
After that meeting, a group of community members came together and helped devise the idea that eventually became the Stories of Atlantic City project.
The Center for Cooperative Media took on that leadership role of project management, and which was critical in sort of helping to keep everything organized and make sure all the different partners were aligned and getting the work done that needed to get done.
Creating a mission statement, creating the vision, creating what this could be. And then I think that was something that everyone could keep circling back to and know this is why we're doing it.
The act of collaborating is becoming, thankfully, much more common in the industry. Media entities working together more often to cover topics and working in much closer partnership with communities, community groups, and other sorts of organizations.
And then the Dodge Foundation came in to support it financially, which was really important in kind of getting all the partners to actually be able to do the work, was to have funding there. I think almost immediately the media partners were really excited about the opportunity to work collaboratively, and community was really behind it right from the start. And the leadership studio really wanted to spearhead the initiative from the community side. There's so much work being done here outside of just yoga in particular.
And then in March of 2019, we hosted here at the Leadership Studio we called it a networking mixer. So people came and they nominated stories of people in their communities, and it was an opportunity for people to have either their story heard, or if they know of people in the community that they feel like it's important to highlight. And so that gave us the opportunity to start looking.
So there was really a goal for Ali and me to be able to reach grass top leaders across the diverse community of Atlantic City to say, hey, can you help us to find other people that are doing great work in their community or interesting things? And then there was also an outreach just sort of on the street.
And then we spent a few months canvassing Atlantic City, knocking on doors, talking to people.
There was a sort of this like really interesting pitch process where Ali and I kind of put together the various stories that we collected from the community, and actually with Mike's help pitched those stories to the media partners.
And as Evan and Ali were pitching the stories, you could see all of the reporters and storytellers really begin to generate great ideas, how to extend their pitches and begin to think about how do we tell these stories.
And I think Ali and I both were just so blown away by the response of the media, and they all found different stories that they were excited and interested in about.
Many times when we start to tell stories, we're reaching people at their lowest moment, and we're getting people at their worst. I think what this project is allowing us to do is to take the time to find people at their best.
There was commitments from the organizations, there were commitment from funders, there was commitment from community, and within 6 months or so, Stories of Atlantic City existed in press, in print, in video.
Then in May, we were able to have the launch party here.
So the night where the stories were chosen to be published in the various media partners' publications was an amazing night. The energy of the people that were here, whether they were being featured or not, there was just like an electricity in the leadership studio. Everybody spoke so powerfully, and I think there was a power in the room as well. There was a pride and a power that like these stories are worthy, these stories are important, these stories matter.
I think the project is awesome because you get to hear truer, fuller stories about actual people that live in Atlantic City.
Time and again, we heard from people about what they were doing in their community to help improve the city, stories of strength and resilience that represented the people of the city.
When we speak with people, when we learn other people's, when we share our truth and listen and receive others, that's how we grow, that's how we move forward. And I feel like the media needs to do much more of this because there are so many beautiful, amazing triumph stories that need to be told.
The Stories of Atlantic City project launched and became public. We heard from not only newsrooms and communities around New Jersey, but newsrooms and communities around the country wondering how they could do something similar where they lived.
We were, as a program, very inspired by this project. Fall 2019, we are launching a new course called COM 3604, Restorative Journalism, and we're using this as a model for this course.
There's really nothing like this in the country right now, and I hope that the Stories of Atlantic City project will serve as a model for any newsroom that wants to tell stories that are more representative of the communities they cover.
We struck gold, no doubt, but there's a lot more to go. So we're just gonna keep going, and yeah, Stories of Atlantic City is not going anywhere.
I mean, it feels really good. I've had people come up to me and say, I saw your story, you're so inspiring, and people just hug me who I don't even know. So I'm a crier, sorry. Cut, no.